I'm April Brown with Zelken Financial Services, and I'm back with a tip, today's illuminated point. So as you notice, my whole situation is different for 2024. Happy New Year, by the way. So I wanted to do something different for the start of the new year, and I thought, what would really be the most important information that I want to put out? So I thought about this series, and it's called the Decade Series. So what do I mean by the Decade Series? Well, I'm going to talk about each decade in reference to finances and what it means for you in each of those decades surrounding or really around your finances. So how we view and think about money. In my 20s, honey, I was thinking differently about, my cash flow. However, now that I'm in my 50s, and yes, I am in my 50s, my perspective is very different. I thought it would be cool to talk about each decade and some things you may want to consider around your finances. With several of my recordings, I always say that your financial decision that you make today will be impactful or impact your financial future of tomorrow. And that really stands true. So let's talk about the 20s. In your 20s, you're considered a young adult, and you're paving your way, whether you're going to college, you're in a trade school, or you're going into the military, etc. So whatever you're doing or not doing, finances are something that you want to think about. So what I've noticed since being in the financial industry is that people don't know what they don't know. And what does that mean? If your knowledge about finances are limited, then what you can do with your finances are also going to be limited. So that's what I'm talking about. So I know that some people know that, what they were taught and they learned is what they continue to carry forward. However, with that said, there's plenty of information out here about finances. However, sometimes people get stuck, and they get stuck because there's so much information. And I actually call it analysis by paralysis. And so what does that mean? That basically means the fear of making an error. So, people are fearful about making a decision about what to do with their money. And so they've got so much information that they're bombarded with that they just they freeze and they just do nothing. And so I'll challenge you in reference to doing nothing. Do something, but don't do nothing. That's really important. And so there are going to be pros and cons to everything. You just have to kind of figure out what makes the most sense to you and what you understand and what you want to do in reference to the cons that you're going to live with. So if you make that choice and there are cons with it, just be okay with living with the cons in reference to, your decision. So I'm going to speak from the perspective of the 5 lives and the merit plan. Now, throughout my videos, if you watch, I always talk about the 5 lives. They're really important, and I talk about the fact that if your plan can't cover the 5 lives, your plan is not that great. You really want to be able to cover the 5 lives. And so what are they? That's long life, short life, rough life, sick life, and the next life. And so there's another piece to this that I'm talking about also, and that goes hand in hand with the 5 lives of retirement, which is the merit plan. And so merit stands for M is in mortgage, E is in estate planning, R stands for retirement, I is insurance, and T are taxes. And so I call this your blueprint. So your merit plan is really the blueprint for you covering your 5 lives of retirement. And generally speaking, when you're in your 20s, you're looking for your first job, you're attempting to establish yourself, as a young adult coming out into the world. And so in looking for your first job or in getting your first job, there are several what I call financial happenings that occur all at once. So the first one is you're establishing your credit history. Yes, you are. If you don't have credit, you're going to get some. Secondly, you're actually paying into the Social Security system for the first time. And so, if you don't know what it is, you probably should, look it up. It gives some information and criteria about how you can collect your Social Security. Number 3, paying taxes. So when you start to work, you're going to pay taxes. And, depending on where you fall at in the tax bracket, that'll determine, just how much you pay in taxes. So if you don't understand what the tax system is for the United States, take the time out, look up the IRS. It'll talk about tax brackets. If you want to look up the IRS, you can always go to Investopedia. That'll talk about tax brackets, those kinds of things. Number 4 is qualified plans, such as 401ks, 457s, 403bs, and your earning benefits. So you got your first job where you're actually, putting in money into a plan and you're earning these benefits. And the benefits are, towards your health insurance and that kind of thing. So how does the merit plan come into play here? So you're thinking, okay, well, you talked about these things that happened in my 20s. Well, how does this merit plan or the blueprint really affect me, or how does that play out? So let's think about it like this. Budget. Now, budget is not in the merit acronym at all. Yes, I know. However, budgeting or budget is really, really important, because what it does is it allows for you to figure out how much money you've got coming in, how much money you've got going out, and if there's a plus or a negative. And if you can establish doing a budget now in your 20s, that makes budgeting so much easier as you move along into the other decades. So the second thing is life insurance. So life insurance is in that merit plan. So that is the I in merit. I don't use life insurance in the traditional way in terms of for a death benefit, but you can use life insurance for that cash value life insurance, where you're building cash value in the policy. And there are, of course, several different types. You've got whole life, you've got universal life, you've got index universal life. So, just food for thought in reference to that. Number 3 is your retirement. So the R in merit is retirement. I know in your 20s you're thinking, why the hell am I thinking about retirement? You should. It's important, because if you have that qualified plan, that is where you build the bulk of your wealth. Most Americans build the bulk of their wealth in those qualified plans, 401ks, 457s, 403bs, and they're there to help you retire, because ultimately you are going to be responsible for your retirement and having money to retire. Not the government, not the organization, you. So you've got to be smart about how you plan for your retirement. So it's important. And on top of that, if you're getting your first job, know this, that the Secure Act 2.0, most employers are now automatically enrolling people into qualified plans. I mean, it's just out the gate. That's happening. So you should be aware of that and understand that and know. I do a video on 2.0, by the way, Secure Act 2.0. So just keep that in mind. And number 4 is T, taxes. That's part of the merit plan, T for taxes. So in taxes, you should learn what the IRS tax code is, have some general knowledge or basis of understanding how taxes play out in your overall, working life, because they do. I'm in the process of reading a book right now that talks about taxes, and a very interesting book, I'll say that much. And so, that in and of itself really can be very impactful in your overall work life into your adult life. Because if you don't plan your taxes, like if you don't pay attention to taxes, you could lose lots and lots of money that, that doesn't necessarily get to stay in your pocket, but that actually goes to the IRS in a legal way. So I know you're wondering, now that I've talked about that, where does the M, which is for mortgage, and where does the E for estate planning come in? And so I'm going to say this, that depends on what you have going on. So most folks in their 20s are looking to purchase homes, rolling into the next decade, which is their 30s. And right now, the housing market is such that it's really hard to purchase a home. I mean, it's really expensive. And so if you only make X amount of dollars and you only qualify for X amount of dollars, but none of the median houses that are on sale are in your price range, well, that makes it difficult. So The mortgage piece is just up in the air, but no, that is still important. And then E for estate. Estate planning is also important. But I will say this, as you begin to acquire assets, is probably when you want to start thinking about estate planning. Because then you got to think, who do I want to get what assets? Where do I want the assets to go? So just food for thought in reference to that. And on top of that, what estate planning does is it also helps to protect your assets. So that's kind of like the thought process around what to think about in your 20s and, just kind of the happenings in your 20s. Now, I'm sure I didn't hit everything. However, based off of, that 5 lives of retirement and the merit plan, this is kind of the trajectory that I'm rolling to in terms of thinking about your finances. So that's what my thoughts are on your 20s. I hope you got something out of this. I am April Brown with Zelken Financial Services, LLC. If you like this, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until the next time, have a great day.